In this training video, I'm going to teach you how to create a cash offer inside of REIPro. Now, when we talk about cash offer, we're not talking about you're giving the seller dollar bills. All we're saying is you're going to pay the seller in one lump sum. Now, generally, when we do this, we have to get a discount. So let's jump into making a cash offer, no matter if you're wholesaling real estate or if you're just rehabbing real estate. As I scroll down, you're going to see this little switcher here from wholesaling to rehabbing. Now, if you are rehabbing without a wholesaler, you would just use this. If you are the wholesaler, then of course you want to be sure to throw in your potential profit so we can calculate the correct offer to the seller. Now, the very first thing we want to do is look at step one over to the left-hand side, and this is going to be the ARV. So we've already run comparable sales, and that ARV has now carried over in saying that this is what the home would be worth in tip-top shape. Underneath this, you can actually create templates just to make your life so much easier. So if you know exactly what these costs are going to be from acquisition, and if it's going to be the same cost for every time you make a cash offer, you can go ahead and set these automatically. So it's going to save you a bunch of time in the future. All right, so we're going to work on the expense column, which is going to be right in the middle. Now, the very first expense is what we call the acquisition expense. So these are costs associated with buying the property. These costs are, but not limited to, the following: title exam, title insurance, document prep, recording fees. You as a wholesaler, when you assign or sell your contract to an investor that's going to buy it ultimately, there's going to be a closing on that. And that's where we have to take these costs into consideration. Now, if you don't know these costs, I would totally recommend get with a local closing attorney or a title company to determine what is the average cost for selling properties in your area where you're investing. I'm going to go ahead and add in $1,200 for this particular case. Next is our repair expense. So remember, in step 3, we went and inspected the property. We determined how much it's going to cost to put this home in tip-top shape. From that, we have estimated the cost of repairs to be $55,000. Next is what I call a hedge expense. If you click the little icon, these are added costs in case your repair analysis was figured wrong. There's always something that you're going to miss. So I like to add a little bit of buffer on my repair expense. And generally what I like to do is go to 10%. So that's going to take 10% of the total repair expense. As we scroll down into holding expenses, you can click the icon. So these are going to be costs during the fix-up of the property, which include insurance, taxes, and utilities. Now, although you are wholesaling it, the investor that's going to buy it is going to incur these costs. Now, you may not know the exact cost to this, but we do need to put in an estimate here. In this example, I'm going to go ahead and put in $2,000. Next is the holding time. So the length of time it's going to take to rehab the property. You could also throw in the time that it's going to sell, right? So again, we don't know what the investor is going to do. The investor could rehab it and just rent it out real quick. Or maybe the investor fixes it up, puts it back on the market, and sells it to a new homeowner. At this point, we want to be safe than sorry. So sometimes this takes a little bit of experience depending on the level of rehab and the length of time that this is going to be. In this example, I'm going to say 2 months. Next is going to be the agent commission. So I want you to think about, you assign your contract to a new investor. The new investor could fix up the property and then put it back on the market. And if they used an agent to sell that, there's going to be a commission paid. Now, depending on the level of commission in your state, your area, it's going to be different. So in this case, I'm going to put 6%, which is a pretty standard percentage. And that's just assuming that we have a listing agent selling it and an agent that's going to represent the buyer eventually to buy it. Now, once that investor sells the house, they're going to have closing costs again. So not only do they have closing costs to buy it from the original owner, now that they fixed it up, they're going to have closing costs at some point. Even if they rent it out for 5 years and then decide to sell, they're still going to eventually have closing costs. So I'm going to put in $1,200 again. And as we scroll down just a little bit more, you're going to see if there's any back taxes, any back payments, HOA fees, anything like that that you found out, of course you want to add that in here. We also have advertising expense. Maybe you work with, rehabbers that they just put signs in the front yard and they don't use agents. So you could eliminate the agent commission and just add in some advertising expense. And then last but not least, any other expenses that incur on the property or things that you find out, we definitely want to throw those in there. Now, as we scroll back up, this is where we're going to start to put in potential profit. So if you're wholesaling this, now this fee could vary. Generally, it could be anywhere from 3 to 20%. Sometimes it may be less. This is all going to change depending on what offer the seller is willing to take. There are cases where you might predict, hey, I'm going to make 10 grand, but you try to sell it to a new investor and like, Chris, I'll give you 5 grand for it. Okay, you might settle for 5 just to get rid of the deal. There's also going to be cases where you hit a home run and these profits could go way up. Next, we have to estimate what the potential profit will be for the rehabber as well. Otherwise, your analysis is going to be figured out incorrectly. Generally, in most places, I always like to start at 15%. Most investors need to get that 15% return. Some are willing to take less. Some won't even work the deal unless it's more. So this is a good general number at 15%. I think the more that you work with your investors, your buyers, you're going to understand what their profits need to be. And this is how you would calculate future deals. Now, if we go down to the cash offer summary here, you can see the after repaired value at 307. Total expenses is going to be $85,000. Your wholesaling profit would be $10,000. Rehabber profit would be $46,000. So your maximum cash offer. So what we're doing is we're taking our after repaired value, subtracting our expenses, subtracting all profits to get to our maximum cash offer. So if all of our expenses were true and we could sell the home for 307, both the wholesaler and rehabber would profit those numbers. So that's 53%, almost 54% of the ARV. Now, our recommended offer is we like to start a little bit less, right? So you want some negotiating room because keep in mind, your maximum cash offer is the maximum. The only way to create a higher offer is to reduce some of your expenses or reduce some of your profits. So what I like to do is go ahead and start typing in the actual number here, and you don't have to put the cents in there. Obviously, sellers are not going to care if you put cents in there, but they are going to wonder, how did you come up with 161,587? You see, you always want your offer to be a little bit different. You don't want it to just be, hey, I'll give you 160 grand for it. It almost seems like you've put no thought into it. Versus if you say, hey, I'll offer you 161,587. The seller's going to think there must be a reason why they came up with that offer. I can now save this offer. Once I save this, I could view and print this offer as well as emailing this offer. So if I click email, I could go ahead and select the owner's or primary contacts information, put an email in here and attach that offer. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see the all cash offer is already selected. Now, if you wanted to throw in any other additional attachments, you could do that right here as well. I would then send the email. Now, always follow up. If you send an offer by email, you must follow up by phone because it's too easy for the seller to look at something on paper and say no, right? Sometimes you need to talk about it. You need to explain, hey, look, we need to bring this property up into 2023. Okay, and unfortunately, it just costs a lot of money to do that. So this is how you make a cash offer in REIPro. Hope this training video helped. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.